of Timberlake Church. My name is Lisa Seaton, and I cannot wait to be with you on Friday, April 26th for the women's event, Refined. We are gonna have an unforgettable night, and it won't be the same without you. So make sure that you get in the room and don't come alone. Bring a friend, bring a sister, bring your mama, bring an auntie, because it's gonna be an unforgettable night. Not only are we gonna laugh and have a good time, but I know that you're gonna leave encouraged, that you are gonna encounter God at this event. Can't wait to share the message that God has put on my heart for you. I love you all already, and I can't wait to see you on Friday, April 26th.
Good morning, Timberlake. That looks like a great time. If you're a lady in the house, I would make sure that you're there. Sign up, why wouldn't you? It's gonna be awesome. If we haven't met, my name is Lance. I'm one of the pastors here. You picked a great Sunday to be here. I wanna take us to start, before we get into the message or anything, take us back in time. Let's go 1848. A discovery happened in America that changed history. It changed the history of America, that's for sure. And the discovery was just outside of Sacramento, right here on the West Coast, and it was gold. Gold was discovered. And before mass media could happen, before there was mass distribution and a lot of awareness of what was going on, people started to hear rumors that gold had been discovered. And with this gold, an untold amount of wealth, that they could change their lot in life and everything could shift if they would just take the leap of faith and move to the West Coast. And this wasn't as easy to investigate as it might be today. You didn't just jump on a flight and see what happened. You didn't just drive down the highway and commit a few days. You loaded up everything you had into a wagon and made the treacherous journey across the country. And when you got here, it wasn't like you just jumped on Redfin or Zillow and decided, where am I gonna live? You had to figure it out. You had to rough it. You had to make it happen, all because the opportunities seemed too great to pass up. Now, history tells us that a vast majority of the people who came out looking for gold never found any. An even smaller portion who did, they didn't get rich. Very few people made money on the gold rush over here to the West Coast, but here's what it did. It brought a number of people of the same makeup, of the same wiring, who were ambitious and tenacious and were into risk, all to the West Coast. And I think that culture of looking for more, looking for better, risking it all, seeing what could happen, being opportunistic has stuck around. In fact, this was before Apple, but that ended up happening around that region as well. And then even a local startup that you may have heard of called Microsoft, maybe another one called Amazon, all out of this culture of what could be next. What could we do? How can we innovate? How can we have more? And I'm starting a brand new series this week called The Grass is Always Greener. And the logo itself just screams seasonal allergies. So if you're in here, sorry if that's a little abrasive for you. But can you do me a favor? Just play along for a minute so I know you're awake and you're with me. How do you finish this phrase? The grass is always greener on the other side. On the other side, and the other side can be either side. It can be just not where I'm at here. It's this attitude that we all have, that you're driven with, that says, isn't there more out there? But if we're honest for a second, and I won't make you raise hands, and I'm included in this too, but isn't it true that the United States of America is kind of the greener grass for a lot of people in the world? And isn't it true of the United States? Isn't the east side of Seattle kind of the greener grass? Yeah, like think about how many people in the world, never mind the world, in the United States, and just in this state, would love to have your job. How many people would love to have your house? How many people would love to be sipping coffee and eating a scone, listening to insightful biblical teaching like you guys get today? I mean, you are living the greener grass. We're here, we made it, we've arrived. And there's a lot of people who would look at your life and finish this sentence this way. They would say, if I had what they had, I would finally be happy. If I had what you people have, I would finally be happy. Which begs the question, why aren't we happier? If we're the ones that everyone looks to and says they should be happy, they have most of the stuff going for them, then why aren't we happier? Why aren't you or I happier? And I could show you all the stats in the world, all the data you could ever hope for with pie charts and graphs and research. And I just picked one, but I think, honestly, you guys know this. I don't even need to validate it that much. In the last decade, Americans have reported feeling not too happy. It rose from 10% to 24% of us. And then these are the people we all kind of resent anyway, so we're kind of okay with it. But the very happy people, we all know these people, they smile too much, the Ned Flanders of the world. They fell from 34% to 19%. And we need these people in our lives. But any stat that you go for, any study that you research, and honestly, if you just look around or even look to yourself, isn't it true that happiness feels more elusive than it's ever been? That contentedness feels like something that's just out of reach. And here's what I know. Whether you're watching online or you're in the room with me, wherever you're at, maybe someone sent this to you. Maybe you're here and you're saying, I'm not all bought into this Jesus thing yet. And that's fine. I'm really glad that you're here, honestly. But for all of us, it's just wired inside of us. I know this is true for each of us. We are all searching for happiness. We all are. We're all searching for happiness, but it always just seems out of reach. It feels like that thing that maybe you flirt with for a little bit, you have it, but it's elusive, it's slippery, it's here for a moment and gone the next. You have it for a second, but then it seems to disappear. It's like the Mariners. You really want them to win, but it's elusive, isn't it? It's like your kids. They listen sometimes, but the way that you're engaged and you're cohesive with your family, it's here for a moment and gone the next. It's like your job. When you think I'm finally gonna have the job that has a great culture, that everyone feels supported, that we have a great work-life balance, you finally got a job that promotes the right people and then disciplines the right people. You know, you're finally gonna land it, and sometimes you get there, but then oftentimes it just drifts away. And for something that we all want, for something that we all need, and for the amount of human ingenuity that we all have, why haven't we figured it out? Why don't we have a curriculum or a pathway? Why don't we teach this in school? Why aren't we saying this is the way to get happy because we all want it, so just go get it? I mean, think about how much ingenuity we have. We have built skyscrapers. We have landed on the moon, at least like most of us believe we've landed on the moon. People, we have Stanley Cups. Like we have ingenuity. We've created phenomenal things, but why can't we get happiness? I was reading the works of a guy named Arthur Brooks, and he is a Harvard professor with one of the most popular classes in Harvard history. It's a course on happiness. He's a researcher, he's a professor, he's an author, and interestingly enough, he's actually a Christ follower as well. And he has spent his life researching what makes people happy, what makes them feel the sense of happiness, and maybe could happiness be more than a feeling? And he says this, I think it's really gonna inform our talk today. Happiness is not a destination, it's a direction. That happiness is not a destination that we land at, but rather it's a direction that we begin to point our lives. And for us, this is so disorienting, this is so countercultural in maybe some of the best ways, and it's contrary to the way that I was raised, and maybe it's contrary to the way that you were raised too. And as we think about this, I think it can be so challenging to think, okay, God, what direction would you have for my life to lead towards happiness? And so we go to the great sage, philosopher, and theologian, Jim Carrey, who has this quote. For Jim Carrey, for Ace Ventura, this is really deep. Think about this. I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of so they can see that it's not the answer. Yeah, that was my response too. I wish that everyone could be rich, famous, have the attention, have everything they ever dreamed of, and they'd realize it just didn't feed the appetite that we all have. That maybe it was satiating for a moment, but there was something deeper that we were actually looking for. And you know, Jim Carrey was onto something, but it actually comes from the Bible. If we look to the Old Testament, which comes before Jesus, before any of the stories of Jesus, would be the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible. In the book of the Old Testament, there's a book called Ecclesiastes. It's written by this guy named Solomon. And Solomon was this incredibly wise, incredibly successful, by any of our metrics, king of Israel. And he looks back in retrospect over his life, and he looks backwards and surveys all the things that he accomplished and tried to negotiate how happy it made him. It's a pursuit and it's an exercise I think will be valuable for all of us when we get to the end of our life. But if we can fast forward and do that sooner, I think we can learn something from it. So here's the things that he talked about amassing in his life. And so some of these things are gonna be culturally specific, but let's just take them as big bucket categories. And I think we can start to resonate. The first one is easy to understand. I undertook great projects. I built houses for myself and planted vineyards. Come on, Woodinville. This is what people are looking for. I got one in Woodinville, I got one in Chelan, and multiple vineyards. It's gonna be great. I made gardens and parks and planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. And letting people know I had access to fruits year-round that you've never even heard of. It gets better. I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees, saying that you guys, you peasants, you pray to God hoping that it rains, but I've conquered nature. I've gotten to a place where I've built reservoirs, so even if it doesn't rain, if we hit a drought, my crops are gonna be fine. I bought male and female servants and had their other slaves who were born in my house. He continues, I also owned more herds of flocks than anyone in Jerusalem before me. For many of us, it may not work, but Duval campus, they know exactly what this is talking about. This is big for them. That's funny. Okay, next one. I amassed silver and gold for myself and the treasure of kings and providences. Come on, he had all the resources in the world. Finally, get this. I acquired male and female singers. He could hold his own American Idol. Isn't that great? And a harem as well. The delights of a man's heart. Listen, he's saying I could serve any pleasure that I wanted to at any moment. If I had a desire, if I had a drive, I could satisfy it. I became greater by far than anyone in Jerusalem before me. And as he lists his accomplishments, as he begins to think and muse on the things that he's created, it really starts to tally up for people. In fact, this number seems astronomical. I feel silly saying it out loud, but I've researched in a number of different people who have tried to tally all the things that he owned and equate them to US dollars today. This number seems fake. I agree with you. Let's just go with it. $2 trillion worth of assets. Now, let's say they're really wrong. Let's say they're radically off and he's only worth 100 billion. That's like 2 homes in Bellevue. I mean, this guy's worth a lot of money, right? He's worth a significant amount of resource. In fact, the way that he describes his success is maybe the most perfect definition of cultural American success that I've ever heard of. He says this as he continues, I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. Doesn't that sound awesome? Like go back one. I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. You want that? I'm gonna have it. That new house, it's mine. New boat, new thing, new object, new car, I got it. New resource, new title, more power, I can have it. Whatever I want, and I refused my heart no pleasure. Hey, if I wanna do something that I like, I'm just gonna do it. If it's something that fills up my heart, I'm just gonna run after it. And the biggest thing is I'm actually gonna accomplish it. Here's what he gained from having the position that you and I would call maybe the best version of success. My heart took delight in all of my labor, and this was the reward for all my toil. Yet, when I surveyed all that my hands had done, what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless. A beautiful phrase to use here. A chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. I chased the wind and caught nothing. But Solomon, whoa. You accumulated so much. No, you would say, what I realized is that happiness was never a destination. The happiness couldn't be achieved and it couldn't be made. In fact, when he says the word meaningless, it's a Hebrew word that's called habel, and habel simply means to breathe. It's temporary and without meaning. It is simply a breath that's here for a moment and gone the next. And for you and for me, let's just ask an honest question. I've needed to ask myself, and maybe you'd be willing to ask yourself too, is where am I chasing the wind? Where am I in the pursuit of grass being greener on the other side? Have I just chased the wind? It's fleeting, it's here for a moment, and it's gone the next. I want you for a moment to think about the people in your life who are the happiest? Like maybe narrow it down to one or two who you've been around, you think they are just relentlessly happy. They seem happy all the time. They just seem this contentedness in them. It's almost disturbing, but they're happy all the time. And I want you to think about a common variable that they all hold. For me, at least, from what I've noticed, is a lot of them feel at peace. They feel at peace, that there's a sense of peace in them. And it's really, I've met people who are at peace who are wealthy, and I've met people who are at peace who are not, who have very little. I've met people who at peace who are single, and I've met people who are at peace who are married, which is maybe more rare, but like they're there too. And what this tells me is peace really isn't hinged to a circumstance or a situation. That peace isn't tied to my surrounding environment. That somehow my peace can be bigger than that. It can be better than that. So what do? How do we get a sense of peace that doesn't feel like we're just chasing after the wind? Maybe a sense of happiness that isn't just a fleeting feeling, but something deeper. Well, according to the Bible, and over the next few weeks, we're gonna unpack some of these things, but happy people are at peace with a few different categories. The first one is they're at peace with themselves. They're at peace with themselves. If you're truly happy, oftentimes you're at peace with yourself. Now, for me, I'm a bit of a dreamer. I like to let my mind wander. This started in school. I'd be the daydreamer. Anyone else the daydreamer in here? Yeah, daydreamer. You're not paying attention, so it's okay. I don't know why I asked, but so that's my fault. The dreamy type, and usually mine revolves around travel. Let's try again. Any travelers in here that love to travel? Like 7 of them. Yeah, no, a bunch over there. Most of you are online. I get that, probably too. But I love to travel, so my mind just starts to wander in what travel could be. And one thing that feeds this disorder of mine when it comes to travel and my yearning for it is a weekly email that I get. It lands Wednesdays at around 11 o'clock, usually right on the nose. I can look forward to it Pacific time, 11 o'clock a.m. And it's from this website called Travel Zoo. I've had it for like probably over a decade, and they send me a weekly top 20 travel destination sales. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's unbelievable. It's like, hey, you could go hike Peru next week, and it's $700 off. I look at my wife, I'm like, I'd be losing money not hiking Peru now. Like, this is fiscally irresponsible of me not to get on this flight. And one of my best friends in the world, we've traveled together, and he also gets this email. So usually Wednesday, our conversation is dominated by where do we want to go. And one week we said, enough talk, we're going. And we saw this 2-week trip to France. Oh my goodness, people, I mean, it was beautiful. You'd stay at all these hotels. They'd shuttle you around everywhere, eat these incredible restaurants. They had all these upgradable options. So we're just dreaming together. We're thinking, this is gonna happen. I don't care what gets in our way. This is gonna happen. And then we talked to our wives, and they were less dreamy about the situation. And they were like, hey, just for these 2 weeks, who's gonna watch our kids? And I'm like, don't burden me with details, okay? Like, I don't need that right now. And they'd be like, hey, I know you had budgeted to travel on a private jet, but maybe we need to bring that down a little bit to reality because I don't know if we can afford that. And all these realities became a burden for me. And isn't it true for each and every one of us? There's just this gap between our reality and our goals. There's a gap between our realities, our goals, and dreams. And what fills that gap? For each and every one of us, come on, we know this is true. Discontentment is the gap between reality and my goals. Discontentment, this unease, this unsettled feeling that honestly, I know I'm uncomfortable with, but I have a suspicion many of us are uncomfortable with the feeling of discontentment. We wish we could just be satisfied at any moment. If you think about it on a scale like this, we have reality on one side and we have goals on the other side, and filling the gap is our discontentment. And so you and I do the same thing because we're strategists and we're uncomfortable with this feeling. If this goal didn't work, we begin to negotiate our goals. So now we have goal 2.0, but discontentment now is met with disappointment. Disappointment because I still know in my heart what I wanted, but at the end of the day, goal number 2 is settling. And if goal number 2 still feels out of reach, we do, well, what? Goal number 3. And discontentment does get smaller, but honestly, our disappointment gets bigger. Disappointment and our frustrations get even bigger. I'm gonna use a very real example. And this might seem extreme, but let's be honest, our lives are, well, they're real. If we bring up that graph one more time, here's what we see. I think many of us live in a reality or a goal, and your reality might be that if you're honest, and come on, this is just between you and God, I'm not making you raise your hand or anything, but your reality is that your spouse drinks way too much. And you don't know how to approach it, you don't know how to handle it, you don't know what to do, it's affecting the family, everybody can see it. So your goal is, you say, God, would you please help them stop drinking because we are just so discontent in what's happening. And you realize after you try that that's not gonna work, so you start to negotiate it down and you say, God, would you just help them drink once a week? And when they drink, would they just kind of stay away from the family? Because it can be really challenging when they're around, but God, just help them get to 1 day a week. And that doesn't work, and so you start to negotiate even further. You say, God, let them drink as much as they want. But when they yell, can they just yell at me and not the kids? Because our kids don't know how to handle that. So God, would you please do this? And as discontentment maybe gets smaller, your disappointment gets larger and larger. And that may feel like too small of a word. Maybe your hopelessness, maybe your defeat, all of that gets so much larger. And let's flip it. Maybe your reality is that you drink too much and you don't know how to handle it. You tried to stop and it wouldn't work. And your goal was to say, I never want to drink again. I'm cold turkey, I'm quitting and I'm done. And that didn't work. And so you went to goal number 2, which is to say, I'm only going to drink once a week. And when I do, I'm going to hide myself from my family. But that didn't work. So you got to goal number 3, which you started to tell yourself that maybe your world and your family would be better off without you. Because I'm so discontent. And we start to realize how real life scenarios come to fruition. We start to see that the gap between our reality and our goals, dreams, and desires can leave a lot on the table to disturb and unsettle our peace. So in the face of real world scenarios, peace seems almost unattainable. At the end of our service today, we're gonna be baptizing people. And it always feels like, maybe from the outside, a little bit of a silly endeavor. People get into a tank right over there. They walk in and they do this weird hold and someone dunks them under the water and brings them back up. And you wanna know what that means for them? It doesn't mean that they have the Bible memorized. It doesn't mean that they have no discontentment in their life. Honestly, it doesn't even mean they have no despair. It doesn't mean that everything is perfect and they're happy all the time. What it means is that they're saying, you know what, God, I'm tired of this linear structure. Instead, I wanna go bigger than that and I want your peace. I want your contentment, even when the world around me doesn't look right. God, I need what you're doing to supersede what I'm feeling. Because my feelings are temporary, but your grace, well, that can be permanent. And so when we baptize people, here's what it actually means. This is so beautiful. I don't know how you don't get fired up about baptisms, you guys. I'm gonna get so weepy later, it's great. Going under the water was a burial of your old life. Coming up out of it was a resurrection. God raising you from the dead just as he did Christ. When you were stuck, what a beautiful word. When you were stuck in your old sin-dead life, you were incapable of responding to God. God brought you alive right along with Christ. Think of it, all sins forgiven, slate wiped clean, that old arrest warrant canceled and nailed to Christ's cross. That's why we're baptizing people. Friends, we're baptizing people because they're tired of chasing the wind, hoping for peace. And they're beginning to discover it in God. Keep moving. Once you find peace with yourself, another one of these key principles is finding peace with others. It's finding peace with others. And we know this. You could be so at peace with yourself, but think about it like this. Parents in the room, if any of you are parents, you're only as happy as your least happy child. Isn't that true? Like you're only as happy as your least happy child. So the people around us really do have a lot to do with our contentment. In fact, what the story I'm about to tell you, you're gonna think it's not real, but you can look it up, you can go for it. On November 1st, every year in Finland, it's known as National Jealousy Day. How great is that? The reason why it's known as National Jealousy Day is because Finland publicly publishes every tax record of its citizens on November 1st. Think about it. You can find out exactly how much your boss makes, your coworkers make, your ex makes, You can find out exactly how much they have in their life. And so this is actually in Helsinki outside the tax record officials document. This is all reporters about to get all the dirt on the people in Finland, trying to figure out what other people are up to. And we always do this. We're chasing others. It's the whole point of the series. But you know this to be true. Happiness is more about a who than a what. Happiness is way more about a who, a person or people, than it is a what. And I'll prove it to you. If happiness was tied to what, we would just get more whats and be happy, right? You would just go buy more what? You'd go buy more things. You'd go get more things. You'd go accumulate more things. You would live on the east side. Well, you made it. And you'd be happy. That's not how it works. Because isn't it true it's tied to a who? Because you're gonna get to the end of your life. Think about this. You're gonna get to the end of your life. You might be on your deathbed. You're not gonna ask the nurse to wheel you down so you can have one last drive in your car. You're not gonna ask, hey, can someone bring in my shoe collection? I just wanna have some quality time with them. You're gonna think, where are my friends and family and loved ones? Where are the people who are most important to me? Aristotle, he actually came way before Jesus, was this ancient philosopher. He talks about this concept of atelic friendships with the root word being telos and atelic, meaning it has use or usefulness. So atelic meaning they had no use or usefulness. Not that they were bad friends, but they had no interest that you could gain from them. They weren't someone who could advance your career. There wasn't someone you were hoping to get money off of. There was no practical use for the relationship. Instead, it was simply there for an emotional use. And he ranked that as the highest version of friendships, which leads me to ask this question. Do you have one or two useless friends? Like, okay, come on. Do you have one or two friends who are just complete? You're like, I have more than two useless friends in my life, but do you have friends in your life who you're not getting anything from? Anything tangible that you require from them? Think about it this way. Do you have somebody who, if you called at 3 a.m., would answer not because they're worried about getting fired, because they're worried about you emotionally of why you're calling at 3 a.m.? Those type of friendships and relationships grant us peace. The Bible talks about it. Proverbs, it says this, Proverbs 18:24, a man of many companions may come to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. You may have many companions or followers or fans in your life, but those people can come to ruin. We've seen it all the time. We see all these celebrities, we see all these people who have it all together, with plenty of people who would love to be in their circle, bring their life to ruin. They're not happy. Why? Because they're looking for something closer, something deeper, and that might be a road to peace. Last one, this is where I'm gonna end. Third one is you're at peace with God. And you probably saw this coming. We're in church after all, so this one's probably not that surprising. You may have already filled it in your blanks, and way to go, you can put a gold star next to that. But for some of you, I realize that this, God might be like so far out of the equation. For some of you, you're thinking, yeah, I've met people who aren't walking with God or close to God, and they seem plenty happy, and that might be true. But for each and every one of us, especially if you're here and you're saying, I'm not in on Jesus yet, I kind of understand. You would say, why would I follow God? Because it seems like God would be the wall or barrier of morality and all these different rules and regulations that I'd have to get around to get to the things that make me happy. What I'm about to say, don't let this leave the room, okay? What the Bible calls sin, I really like doing. It's really fun. Like all the fun stuff is sin. And so we look at it and we see the sin is so attractive. So you're thinking to yourself, why would I follow a God who's gonna call all the things that are supposed to make me happy inappropriate? But what if it's better than that? What if it's not about rules and regulations? That's fine. But it's a relationship with God, a lot like Jesus talked about, because Jesus was so relational. He was far more interested in others, in peace, in hope, in a future. He was far more interested about people's future than he was their past. And for each and every one of us, we have the opportunity to maybe make peace with God, and it could do this. If you've fallen asleep, if you're daydreaming, if you've clicked away somewhere else online, come on. This is the one thing I want you to hear. Peace with God clears the way to peace with ourselves and prepares us to keep peace with others. Peace with God clears the way from shame, from guilt, from remorse, from sleepless nights, to make way for peace with ourselves. And once we have that, once we have some security and peace with ourselves, we don't have to look for security from other people all the time. We don't have to use them for how they can make me feel at peace. And instead, we can provide peace in our relationships. And it lets me provide peace to others. So God becomes this linchpin peace giver. In fact, think about it this way. Jesus, when he left his disciples, ascended to heaven, grace was theirs. He could have given them anything. He could have given them resource, like here's some funding to get the church started, didn't do it. He could have given them power or influence. He could have given them authority. He could have given them a lot of different things. But here's what Jesus leaves with them. Peace I leave with you. My type of peace. Come on, not the peace you think you're getting from chasing the wind. And friend, come on. Be honest, where have you been chasing the wind? Where have you been hoping that next promotion will finally fill the tanks? Maybe that next vacation, maybe the other home, maybe once I have X amount in the bank. Can we just learn from Solomon that, listen, he doesn't give as the world gives. Don't let your heart be troubled and do not be afraid as the world is afraid and told us so much to be afraid, to look over the fence at other people's life, to realize the grass is greener, and if you get there, you'll finally be happy. Jesus says, come on, be done. Quit chasing the wind and instead discover I can give you a sense of peace you didn't even know was possible. So today, what do you need to fill that disappointment, the despair, fill the discontent? You can keep striving. You can leave this room and keep chasing the wind. Or you can begin to trust in a God who provides so much peace. Can I pray for you before we baptize some people? We're gonna celebrate their faith in just a moment, but maybe I'd like to just pray a prayer to encourage yours. Heavenly Father, I pray for every person in this room who, like me, has found themselves chasing a definition of success that, well, doesn't really align with yours. And we get it. We get fleeting moments of happiness. We get little tastes along the way, but God, that's not what you intended. You intended something better. So for every person in this room who just feels like peace is a mile away, would they be bold enough to open up their hearts, maybe courageous enough to invite you to a place where you can bring peace in a way that you describe? Bring peace in a way that, well, we didn't even know was possible. God, ultimately, right now, we look to you to have peace in our relationship so we can find peace in ourselves. And ultimately, we can be at peace with others. Not only is this something you've challenged us to, but God, it's something you've promised to help with. So, would you hold up your end of the promise? Would you give us peace beyond comprehension? I pray that by the supernatural work of your Holy Spirit, Jesus, you would give peace to us. We're so grateful. We're so grateful for all that you do. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, you guys, we are gonna celebrate some people who have decided to find their source of peace in Jesus. And here's what I wanna challenge you to do. They may not get celebrated for this decision at work, maybe even in their families, but you better believe we are gonna celebrate them here at Timberlake. And so when they go down under the water, I want you to just get ready. And when they came up, I want their ears to be greeted with cheering, with clapping, and with celebration. And I think when we do that, we join in with heaven. And so, come on, we're gonna watch one video as they get ready to baptize some people, and let's get ready to celebrate.
Water baptism is a way of saying, hey, I've surrendered my life to Jesus, but if I was perfect, I wouldn't need Jesus. And so I've surrendered to him. And here's what we celebrate in water baptism. When people go down into water, it's their way of identifying with Jesus to say, hey, just like Jesus died and was buried, my old life is dead and buried. When we come up out of the water, we say, it's just like Jesus was resurrected. We've been resurrected to new life.
Hey, amen, amen. Come on, would you stand with are being baptized today. Hey! A lamp unto my feet. Hey! Your way is the only way for me. Oh, what else could I need? It's a narrow road that leads to life, but I wanna be on it. It's a narrow road with a mercy wide, 'cause you're good on your promise. I'll take you at your word. If you said it, I'll believe it. I've seen how good it works. You started, you'll complete it. I'll take you at your word. Yes, I will, yes, I will. You spoke and the chaos fell in line. Oh, I know, 'cause I've seen it in my life. It's a narrow road that leads to life, but I wanna be on it. Hey, it's a narrow road and the tide is high, but you're part of the water. Your word, you said it, I'll believe it. I've seen how good it works. You started, you'll complete it. I'll take you at your word. Yes, I will. Yes, I know that you're good on your promise. Together. You said your love would never give up. You said your grace is always enough. You said your heart would never forget or forsake me. Hey. You said I'm saved. You call me yours. You said my future's full of your hope. You never fail, so I know that you'll never fail me. You said your love would never give up. You said your grace is always enough. You said your heart would never forget or forsake me. You said I'm saved. You said I'm saved. You call me yours. You said my future's full of your hope. You never fail, so I know that you'll never fail me. I'll take you at your word. Hey, you said it, I'll believe it. I've seen how good it works. Ain't that right? If you started, you'll complete it. I'll take you at your word. You said it, I'll believe. Oh, I've seen it. If you started, so I'll take you at your word. You said it, I've seen how good it works. You started, you'll complete it. I'll take you at your word. Yeah. Oh, I know that you're good on your promise. I'll take you at your word. Come on, let's celebrate!
Hey, that was so much fun. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for celebrating baptisms with us. This is the end of our service. If you would like prayer, there will be people down front here who would love to pray with you. Otherwise, have a phenomenal Sunday. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching. But before you go, please be sure to bookmark this page so that you can find us again next week. And are you looking for a way to get engaged and join a team? The online chat engagement team is a role that anyone and everyone can do, and it's simple. Engage with people, create an environment where people are free to be themselves, and more importantly, open to receive the truth of Jesus. And if you're interested in joining this team and becoming part of what God is doing through Timberlake Online, please let me know on your connection card. Links can be found in chat, and I'll see you here next week at online.timberlakechurch.com.